Who would have thought that a man who walked into the bank wearing worn-out shoes, a tired smile, and a crumpled withdrawal slip, would leave the fleet commander of an entire naval base speechless? But that's exactly what happened the day a single dad named Ryan Malik stepped inside Seagate Federal Bank simply to check his balance. Ryan pushed open the glass door with a gentle nudge, holding his daughter's hand. 9-year-old Mira walked close to him, her school bag bouncing lightly against her side. To the world, they looked like any struggling little family, quiet, humble, trying their best to make ends meet. Ryan's janitor uniform still carried the smell of disinfectant and floor polish, and the tired crease between his eyebrows told a story he never said out loud. The hook began the moment they stepped toward the machine. Because while Ryan only wanted to check how much money he had left before buying groceries for the week, fate had something very different planned. Something that would expose what he had been silently carrying for years, and what the fleet commander himself had never expected to witness. The bank was unusually full that afternoon. Officers from the nearby naval base were depositing their salaries. Among them stood Fleet Commander Adrian Holt, tall, decorated, loud, and known for his rough humor. He noticed Ryan's uniform, the faded, custodial staff badge, and smirked to the officers near him. "Boys, look at this. Poor guy looks like he's checking whether he can buy bread or not." The officers chuckled. Ryan heard it. He always did, but he never reacted. Mira squeezed his hand tighter and whispered, "Papa, ignore them." "I always do," Ryan whispered back. He inserted his card, his hands trembling slightly, not from the mockery, but because he expected the worst. Last night, he skipped dinner again so Mira could eat. He had patched his shoes 3 times this year. Electricity bill was due. School fees, he didn't even want to think about. He entered his PIN. The commander watched over his shoulder from a distance, still smirking, telling the others, "Watch this, he'll probably have less than 100. The machine processed. The screen blinked. Ryan froze. He blinked again, as if his eyes were lying. The number on the screen didn't make sense. Not in this life. Not with his salary. Not with his hardships. The fleet commander, noticing Ryan's reaction, stepped forward with his mocking tone still alive. "What's wrong, janitor? Shocked by your own poverty?" But when he came close enough to see the numbers, the smirk fell off his face like shattered glass. Because the balance showing on the screen was more than the commander's entire yearly salary. Ryan stepped back, his breath trembling. Mira looked up confused. The bank fell silent as the commander leaned in, eyes wide, his harsh voice suddenly barely a whisper. This can't be right." But it was. Because 2 nights earlier, without telling anyone, the Navy had approved a long-delayed compensation package, an amount owed to a man they once quietly relied on but never honored publicly. A man who, years before becoming a janitor, was a combat rescue specialist, a decorated operator who was injured during a mission while saving a downed naval pilot, a pilot who happened to be Commander Holt's younger brother. Ryan had never mentioned it. Never demanded recognition. Never asked for favors. He only took the janitor job to keep food on the table for Mira. And yet, the system had finally caught up. What he never expected was to learn it here, in a crowded bank, surrounded by the very people who once overlooked him. But Commander Holt remembered his brother's rescue. He remembered every detail. He remembered the face of the man who had crawled through burning wreckage, bleeding, half-conscious, carrying his brother on his back. He remembered the call sign whispered in the hospital, "Ghost Shepherd." And now he realized, Ghost Shepherd was the janitor he mocked. Ryan avoided eye contact, trying to process everything. "There must be a mistake," he said quietly. The commander shook his head, his voice breaking. "No, the mistake was all of ours." He stepped back, stood tall, and did something no one expected. Right there in the middle of a crowded bank, he snapped to attention and saluted Ryan Malik. Everyone watched in stunned silence. Ryan felt his throat tighten. Mira clutched his arm, confused but proud. Tears gathered in the corners of his eyes as the commander said, "Sir, my family owes you everything. And my Navy owes you more." People around them lowered their heads, ashamed of the laughs they had just shared. Ryan swallowed hard. "I'm no sir. I'm just trying to raise my daughter." "Then you've already done more than most men in uniform," the commander replied, voice steady. Word spread through the bank. People stepped aside, some with guilt, some with admiration, and some simply stunned at how easily they judged a man by his uniform. Ryan spent the next hour sitting on a bench, Mira resting her head on his shoulder as he processed the truth. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about respect, about dignity, about how silently a hero can walk among people who never bother to see him. By the time he left the bank, the commander walked him out personally. Not as an officer escorting a janitor, but as a man honoring another man. Ryan looked down at Mira, smiled gently, and whispered the real message he learned that day. Never let the world decide your worth. It doesn't know your story. And as this story reaches your viewers, it carries the same reminder. Heroes are often the quietest people in the room. Sometimes, the one you laugh at is the very one who saved more lives than you'll ever know. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you never to judge too quickly, then take a moment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this message with someone who needs it today. Because stories like this, they're not just stories. They're mirrors. They show us who we truly are. And who we should be.